Hello everyone, welcome to Ed Talks Film. My name is Ed. We're here to talk film. And this time we're going to actually be getting around to something that I've teased for a little bit, something that's actually taken me a long time to actually get here and decide to do this, which is my top 10 films of 2022. Everybody does their year-end lists. I am no different. I also do a year-end list most of the time. And I think this is the first time I'm actually doing it with this channel, I believe. I could have done a top 10 list for 2021 at some point, but I'm not entirely sure if that's the case. But regardless, we're here. We're doing a top 10 of 2022, and I'm very, very excited to share that with you guys. I know some of you have been waiting for it, and I myself have been waiting for it. There's just so many movies that I've had to see, and it's been kind of hard to get around to all of them. So this is basically where we're at now. So let's get right into it. So first things first, what I want to do is talk about my honorable mentions. The honorable mentions section of my top 10 for 2022 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I know a lot of people, this is at the top of a lot of people's top 10 lists. It's a very, very popular film this year. Film I thoroughly enjoyed. Just wasn't able to make it in my top 10 list, even though I really did have a blast with it. I'm excited to see again too at some point. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Not in my top 10, but honorable mention. All Quiet on the Western Front. Very, very excited for this movie. Happy with how it turned out. Very glad that we have another great World War I movie happening, considering it's kind of rare that we get really good quality, high budget World War I movies. And this one really, really took the cake on it. I'd say better than 1917 probably. I think it really did a good job, especially at just showing like how horrific World War I was as a conflict, whereas that's kind of missing from films like 1917 and the lack thereof of other World War I movies we have other than the original All Quiet on the Western Front, the remake of All Quiet on the Western Front in the 70s, and Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory. So it's nice to get a really good quality one. It almost felt like to me like they took Battlefield 1 and they just put that on screen, and it worked out perfectly. Next we have The Whale. Gonna show some love on here for Brendan Fraser and Darren Aronofsky. I love both of them so much, and I'm super happy with The Whale. I thought Brendan Fraser's performance was a revelation. I'll be surprised if he doesn't win the Oscar. I think Aronofsky is doing pretty good at what he does with his directing. Him moving into a little bit more of like a kind of play style, it almost like Bergman-y in a way. I really, really liked what he did with it. Not everything about the movie was great. There was definitely certain characters that I felt their inclusion was maybe a little bit didn't really need to be there all that much. I also think some of the dialogue was a little here and there sometimes, but ultimately I really had a blast watching the movie, and the ending of the movie I felt was a triumph. Next we have Fire of Love. This is a documentary that aired on National Geographic about two French volcanologists who die doing what they love, and basically goes over their career, and it tracks the relationship as well as the volcanoes that they studied. I really had a blast with this documentary. I love nature documentaries. I love documentaries about kind of like the kind of titanic forces under our feet that we don't necessarily think about too often, and we're not necessarily super connected to, especially in the world that we're in now, where, you know, we seem pretty removed from nature, but then every now and then nature reminds us just how powerful it is. And I thought this movie was a blast. I thought it was very, very well edited, very well put together, very emotional. I love volcanoes. I think they're very, very interesting, and always have been. So getting to see this documentary and getting to see just like the sheer power and the amazing archival footage that they show in the film of the volcanoes that these people researched was extravagant, and then at the heart of it, this love story I think was just brilliant. And then lastly, we have Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I loved this movie. I thought it was a blast. I really didn't know what I was going to think going into it, and it took me a little while to warm up to it, but by the end of the movie, I was thoroughly convinced that this was one of the funniest and most well-written films that I had seen this year. All right, so let's get into our top 10 movies of 2022. At number 10, we have Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Now, I saw this fairly recently, but I remember when Marcel the Shell was just an internet video series that I would watch in high school, and now we have a feature film about it. I believe Dean Fleischer Camp, he's the director. Amazing job. I really, really loved Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. It's one of the most adorable, kind-hearted, just warm movies, but also extremely mature in its storytelling. And the idea of watching the shell, Marcel the Shell, played brilliantly by Jenny Slate, kind of discovered this much larger world outside of the world that he lives in with his grandma, played by Isabella Rossellini. Is just astounding, and it really blows my mind, honestly, how good this movie turned out considering the source material. Not that the source material is bad, but it's like cute internet videos. So the ability to tell just a story that was this emotionally gratifying and in ways super emotional as well. Like, there's depths, emotional depths in this film that I see a lot of movies for adults not even being able to meet. And I was very, very happy to see this movie and have it actually just be so good and have it kind of live up to the hype that I kind of had for it, because I was really hoping it would be good. And it was. It was really awesome. So my only issue with the movie is that I feel like its color grade was basically just like log. And I'm like, we couldn't have graded this footage. Like, what is going on? There could have been a little bit of a stronger grade for this, but that's just so minimal. This film is just incredibly well written, incredibly well directed, beautifully voice acted by Jenny Slate in particular. I think she really brings a lot of nuance to Marcel's character through her voice acting, and yeah, I couldn't be happier. The movie was awesome. I loved it. Next, we actually, in the number 9 slot, we have 2 movies. We have Pearl and X. Now I'm kind of cheating, obviously, but I had to put the both of them in there because I feel like they're almost 2 halves of a whole of this kind of, new horror trilogy that we're getting from Ti West. And I think both of these movies are brilliant when paired together. I loved them both separately, but watching them together I think was really, really great. I'm not the biggest horror guy. It's not that I don't like horror, because I do actually actively will seek out horror films that I hear very good things about. But I see those films first, not necessarily by the genre. And I think Ti West actually did something really miraculous with this kind of series. I think he did a good job kind of making a kind of throwback to kind of 70s grindhouse films with X, and then kind of doing this is actually a perverted Wizard of Oz, unlike what they would say about Midsommar. But I think, what he does with Pearl also is kind of like do a really good job at taking a look into how isolation and otherness can drive someone's madness, and how someone's internal madness can be driven by isolation. I really, and ambition as well. And I really, really love just the character study that Pearl is on its own, telling the story of somebody who is, I won't spoil for you, but, appears in X later. And just seeing like how he was able to like make that work, and also just how Mia Goth, through her performance, was able to just really bring that out and make it very believable. I mean, she has an amazing scene that's who knows how many minutes long, a monologue that she does that I thought was absolutely phenomenal, iconic even, and yeah. And then with X in on its own, super fun. I'll never listen to, what's the song? Don't Fear the Reaper by the Blue Oyster Cult. Never listen to that song the same way again after that movie. I think it was just great, especially seeing a great kind of horror movie like that with a big cast of characters all doing really, really well, and the movie kind of not losing its footing or getting too cheesy or corny, or at least when it was leaning into it and knowing what it was. I think that's kind of like the key to success for movies like this, and I think X killed it. I think Pearl nails it, and I'm very excited for Maxine. So yeah, Pearl and X. And number 8, we have Tar. Where do I even begin with Tar? It's kind of jacked up that it's this low on the list because if I'm being honest, objectively, I think it might actually be the best movie of the whole year. But because I'm kind of ranking on objective goodness and enjoyment, and like it's kind of jacked up that this is low. But I love all these movies, especially like all the next movies I'm about to say. I love them so much that Tar only ends up down this low on this list purely because of just how much I love these next couple movies. But I love them all, and that's kind of the issue. It's like kind of trying to pick favorite children. But Tar, Todd Field's latest movie, Nick Nightingale from Eyes Wide Shut, if you're a big fan of Eyes Wide Shut like I am. Kate Blanchett's performance in the film, let's start there. Brilliant. If she doesn't win the Oscar, I'll be very surprised. Todd Field telling the story of this brilliant woman composer who gets kind of canceled and Me Too'd, and kind of seeing the struggles of a person who's kind of driven mad with their own power and influence in their own mind is really exciting. I think he asks a lot of very interesting questions about specifically power in industry, which I think is kind of an important thing that we should be asking ourselves questions about always. I think it's shot very, very well. The dialogue is so good. The beginning of the film starts with a conversation, and I don't know how long it went on. It went on for a while, and I honestly could have listened to it just more and more and more. I think it was very, very well done. I think, getting immersed into this world of music, which I know nothing about, I felt like I was just sucked in from the beginning. Like I was sucked into kind of like the politics of this world, how it works, and then ultimately seeing this character study about the downfall of this character and what ultimately happens to her. And I kind of like stories like that. But it's interesting because usually the stories start on the upswing, start down here and then go on the upswing, and then you get to see the downfall of this character. This starts at the peak, and then it's just a slow descent into madness in a way, and I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. I think Todd Field's an amazing filmmaker, and I can't wait to see what he makes next. At number 7, we have Robert Eggers' The Northman. I'm a big fan of Robert Eggers. I don't know if I've really expressed that too much in this channel, because obviously I had an old channel, and I do remember specifically making videos about it, but I don't know if I've really talked about it too much here. But I am a big fan of Robert Eggers. I love The Witch, and I love The Lighthouse. And The Northman was a movie I was extremely excited for. I was a little wary about it because of hearing about all the on-set drama and the drama between the studios and Robert Eggers. So finally getting to see this movie when it came out, I was kind of nervous, but I was hoping it was going to be very good. And ultimately, it did not disappoint. The Northman was an incredible film. I loved seeing Vikings just doing Viking things. I loved kind of its attention to detail with history. I loved its beautiful Eastern European film and influences really being shown off. And I feel like seeing Robert Eggers take on a much bigger project like that, I think really, really fit in his wheelhouse. I think he wrote an incredible story, obviously based off of kind of the saga of Amleth. I think everybody in it did a great job, especially Alexander Skarsgård and Anya Taylor-Joy in kind of like the leading roles. There's amazing, beautiful, gory violence, and an ending that honestly like is just so surreal that like that's something that people spent a lot of money on something like this in this day and age. To go see, I think honestly really blew my mind, and I'm super just happy that a film like this got made, and I'm just glad that I was able to enjoy it as much as I did because I really, really had a blast. Next, at number 6, we have The Batman. The Batman, the long-awaited follow-up solo film for Batman since The Dark Knight Rises, which was in 2012, so it's been 10 years effectively since we've had another solo Batman movie, and let me tell you, this movie rocked. Matt Reeves, I love Matt Reeves. I've loved him since the, Dawn for the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, and even since Cloverfield. I think he's a phenomenal director, and the fact that he got Batman and he got to do his take on Batman, I think was great. I was a big comic book reader at one time in my life. I do still have a fairly big collection of comic books, so I could definitely see the influences of some certain comic book artists and writers in this film. You know, one of the first things I thought when I saw the trailer was it kind of reminds me of Lee Bermejo and Brian Azzarello's Batman Damned in terms of aesthetic. And I was really, really psyched about seeing this movie, and a 3-hour Batman movie. You're speaking my language, and I think they nailed it. I really think they nailed it. I think Robert Pattinson is a phenomenal Batman. I think he'll be iconic, just like how every other Batman has kind of been iconic for better or for worse. I think they really stuck their claim in and created a new world, a newer feeling Gotham, a different feeling Gotham than what we're usually used to seeing on screen, and I think it worked very, very well. It's got brilliant performances, obviously, no miscasts. Especially with, the Riddler, played by Paul Dano. The guy who plays Gordon, I can't remember his name right now, but I love him in that role. I think he absolutely kills it. Obviously, Colin Farrell as the Penguin was great. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I'm really, really excited to see this because I feel like it blends a lot of, see where this goes especially, but I love the film, and it blended, I feel like, a lot of the kind of great things that I loved about Batman comics when I was reading them, and kind of put them all together in one big, large, awesome film. And I mean, who can forget the sequences set to Something in the Way? I mean, come on, this movie rocked. So yeah, the Batman. And number 5, we have Babylon. When I first started hearing about Babylon, man, I was so hyped on this film. And I couldn't wait. I honestly couldn't wait to see what Damien Chazelle was going to cook up. I've been a big fan of his last 3 movies. I love that guy. I love his work. And man, Babylon really, really was something to behold. Super long movie. It's kind of amazing that it even got made, but ultimately I think he kind of killed it, man. I don't think he necessarily did everything amazingly. I think the last act of the movie doesn't necessarily move as fast as it probably should. But ultimately, I think he made an incredible love letter to cinema and an incredibly scathing satire about the film industry. I think is a little bit needed, and I think is, something that when you look at a film like La La Land, he kind of does it a little bit there as well, in terms of kind of like what kind of the cost is of chasing your dream. But ultimately, I think that in Babylon, he does a really, really good job. I think it's very awesome from a historical point of view, getting to look at this particular era of filmmaking. I would have even liked to see it go into like the 40s and the 50s, the more Paramount era. I like to see something get the Babylon treatment, but for that era of Hollywood. But he killed it, man. I mean, there's great, humongous, big set pieces. There's incredible characters like Nellie Leroy, the main character, played by Diego Calva, who I really, really thought did a pretty decent job in the film. Brad Pitt, obviously, I think stole the show in this film. I really, really loved him. Man, I don't know, it's just another Chazelle movie, and I really, really loved it. I love the ending, which I know has been super controversial, and the whole movie's been controversial, honestly, but honestly, it was one of my favorite movies of the year. I feel like I just had a blast just watching it, and just like really getting to take in kind of this crazy Hollywood history that kind of never gets told. So I think Damien Chazelle killed it. He's a brilliant filmmaker. I can't wait to see what he does next. Next, at number 4, is The Fabelmans. Yes, Steven Spielberg has made it onto this list, and I gotta apologize to Steven Spielberg for putting mad disrespect on his name with a video I made a few months back. Bro, he's back. Spielberg has proved once again that he is the master. God, getting to see Spielberg tell his own story on screen and it be as emotional, as compelling as it is, as beautiful as it is, as rewarding as it was, and also getting to see how a lot of those different moments of his life kind of bled into certain scenes of certain movies. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've seen the Spielberg filmography, you know what I'm saying. I loved it, dude. I loved every minute of it. I had a blast. I think all the acting was amazing. Steven Spielberg really just showed, it's weird because he's able to take a film, we know kind of Spielberg for like the magic of movie making, and he really kind of demystified it while at the same time doing it again. It's kind of mind-blowing. I think he made just an amazingly personal film that, albeit is obviously maybe more personal than a lot of the other films that we were all like, oh, the most personal Spielberg film. I think he was able to tell that super personal film without being pretentious, and at the same time really getting down to you know, what inspired him, and ultimately creating another super inspiring piece of work, I think, for young filmmakers, for filmmakers like myself. I think he really just brought us another great piece of art. I feel like we don't really get a lot of these days. Although there are 3 films about filmmakers telling their own stories now this year, so I guess we just all hit the right spot this one year. We got it. But yeah, The Fabelmans, love it. Cannot wait to see what Steven Spielberg does next. All right, we're at the top 3, and for number 3, Nope. Jordan Peele is a filmmaker that I have very much grown to admire. I thought Get Out was very good. I thought Us was a very much more intriguing film for me. And getting to see a UFO movie by Jordan Peele, super excited for that. And I think ultimately he kind of took the best of what he was already good at in the horror realm, in the mystery realm, with Nope and Get Out, and then really kind of took in kind of like the Spielbergy-ness that you would see in like Jaws or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the kind of wonder, and mixed those two things together perfectly. I think the best way probably to describe Nope is like Close Encounters of the Third Kind meets Jaws. I think it's great. I think Daniel Kaluuya does a great job, but obviously the star of the freaking show is Keke Palmer. She does absolutely phenomenally in this film. I love the idea of trying to get an amazing video of whatever this thing is, and as somebody who's very personally kind of weirdly interested in kind of the phenomena of UFOs, getting to see a movie that really like gets to experiment with that, go look into it, and really like kind of be like a little bit of an outsider and an insider take at the same time on that phenomena itself, I think is really cool. There's some incredible moments, especially in IMAX. I was very fortunate enough to see this in a dual laser IMAX, so with the big tall screen, and some of the sequences in this movie were absolutely stunning. And yeah, man, I just applaud Jordan Peele. I think this is probably the best filmmaking he's done to date, and I cannot see what he does next. Also, sorry y'all, I know I kind of sound like probably jacked up. I'm a little sick. I'm getting over a cold right now. So, all right. At number 2, we have Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick is a film I've been patiently waiting for since 2019. I can't say anything more than I'm just so happy that we have the sequel and that Tom Cruise is still pumping out just super quality action movies, man. I'm a big Tom Cruise fan. I've always kind of been a big fan of him since I was a child. I love his movies. I love the reinvigoration of the Mission Impossible series post Mission Impossible 3. And I love Tom Cruise's, what he's able to bring to the screen, the energy he's able to bring to the screen. But obviously he's proven himself thoroughly as a producer, especially in his collaborations with Christopher McQuarrie, who both of them produced this film, and man, Top Gun Maverick killed it. I never thought that, you know, the new one would be better than the original, and obviously the original is a very good movie, but obviously not the best movie ever. But they exceeded it, man, and now with the Best Picture nomination, it's like, well, what? Top Gun? It's kind of nuts, but I mean, I saw that movie in the theater 4 times. I really went back over and over again to see this film in the theater. Because the experience was just so unique, I feel like, to what we were getting. I feel like there wasn't really a movie like this in the theater for a long time. I mean, there's lots of Marvel movies and lots of action movies out, and none of them really hit the way that Top Gun Maverick did. I think, I love the filmmaking behind it. I loved Maverick and Rooster's whole thing. Obviously, Miles Teller does a really great job as Rooster in the film. Obviously, Tom Cruise does a great job as Maverick in the film. There's just lots of bits of nostalgia, and Top Gun was a big film for me as a child. So just getting to see them make a new Top Gun movie and it be as quality as it was, as beautifully photographed as it was, the real feeling of putting the actors in the jets, which I think helps the film a lot. Honestly, just get that visceral punch that you need to sort of make a film like this effective, and derive these beautiful, amazing, incredible action sequences that in some cases had me in tears. Top Gun Maverick, my second favorite movie of the year. Honestly, couldn't be more happy with it. And yeah, man, I'm just excited for every Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie project going forward. Any project that Tom Cruise is really producing, because it's clear that this man puts his all. He puts his all into this work, and it's paying off. It's paying off big time. All right, so after everything I just said about Top Gun Maverick, it might be like, what the heck could his top film of the year be at this point? And this is a big surprise for me. And I'm still kind of in disbelief that it's up here, but it's up here. And that is, number one, we have Bones and All by Luca Guadagnino. Yeah, man. I made fun of this movie before it even came out. And I even still make fun of it. I call it Call Me By Your Blood Type, because it is, it is kind of like, it's basically that. It's Call Me By Your Name with cannibals, really. But no, Bones and All, based on the book Bones and All, which is kind of a YA title, I guess, is probably one of the best road trip movies I've ever seen. It's one of the best romance movies I've ever seen. It's got one of the thickest, most brilliant, beautiful atmospheres in a film I've ever seen. And it's incredibly well acted. And it's weird because this is such disturbing content, like the idea of cannibalism and eating people. And that's something I don't necessarily do well with in movies. If there's like one like thing in movies that like I'm like, I can't watch it, it's cannibalism. But this movie actually, I felt really easy about it. I really didn't feel like that, like jacked up watching it. I feel like the movie did a good job at kind of portraying these people as people, not necessarily condoning the cannibalism. But Luca Guadagnino does something he does best, which is he kind of like is able to make movies about people in the outskirts of society, and at least try and like get you to see their point of view on it, even if you don't agree with them or not. I mean, Call Me By Your Name, very complicated piece of work on moral levels, but it's a movie that I think excels at what it is because it's not trying to, it's not getting caught up in the kind of complicatedness of its morality. It's more about these characters and what they feel. It's not necessarily trying to like tell you how to feel about it. It's like, this is just what it is. This is what it feels for them. So take that as you will. And this movie does kind of the same thing. It's got beautiful cinematography. It's got an amazing score. I think the acting is great. That guy from Dunkirk, his name is escaping me. Dunkirk and The Two Doors and Bridge of Spies. Mark Rylance. He's exceptionally creepy in this movie. Timothée Chalamet, an actor that I kind of am like here and there with, really won me over with this movie. I really loved him. And then the girl in the film, I believe she's the sister in Waves. Very well done performance by her. I really just don't know what to say, except the movie really made me want to go check out the Midwest a little bit. I don't know, it's something it's hard to describe because it's such an experience, but I think the tenderness with which the narrative is delivered, the filmmaking that Luca Guadagnino is known for is on full display here. The writing is, I think, very exceptional. I think the way these characters talk to each other, what they do, not only all makes sense, but it's elevated in a way that enhances the experience undue amounts. And yeah, I just really had a blast with this movie. It's a movie that I felt very deeply for ever since watching it, and I really cannot wait to see it again. So Bones and All is my number one. Thank you everybody for checking out my top 10 movies of 2022. I cannot wait to see what comes out this year, 2023, and hopefully have another great top 10 for you guys then. Thank you all so much for sticking around during this video. I'll see you guys next time. Adios.